Thank you. You recorded? All right, cool. So have a great meeting. Have fun. I'll see you.
All right, George.
Thanks.
All right, George.
Yeah.
You got my email, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
All
I
right, so
got the
I
article.
will. Okay, so I'll be in the office tomorrow. So sometime. So I don't know, but I'll if needed.
Okay, cool.
All right.
So this was a conversation that Ivan and I were having in reference to exactly who were the board members and just clarifying that. So we were asking George's assistance in just getting that squared away so that we had that detail.
Absolutely, Ms. Bond. Thank you for concurring.
Mhm.
It is also, I mean, if we want to consider it on our agenda, it is on our agenda. It is actually the third thing on that is on our agenda, which is review, okay, of the committee. Was that sent out? Because that was sent out in
Yes, it was sent out.
that was sent out in due time. Okay, so with that being said, is it a as the parks chair, I just want to I want to take this as parks chair, I just want to take the jurisdiction in modifying the actual agenda and addressing this first. So with that being said, is there anybody who wants to be part of the Parks Committee? First and foremost, that is attending this meeting currently right now.
Ivan, I think you broke up a little with the question. Can you just repeat the question, please?
I'm sorry, Mr. James. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but is there anyone who wants to be or does not
Yes.
want?
Is there anybody that is willing and wants to, on their free will, wants to be a part of the Parks Committee?
What does
This is
the
Beatrice.
position entail of?
Wait. Okay, so I had two people. Beatrice, and then I had a Taylor.
Wait.
Can I go with Beatrice first?
Yeah, at the moment I cannot commit, but the moment I am able to, I'll connect with you. But for now, I can't. I just don't want you to think I'm ignoring your question.
No worries, because your attendance is greatly appreciated, and I know you've been attending meetings, and you're a new member. You've been doing your due diligence and everything that you could possibly contribute to. So anybody else? I had Taylor. Taylor, you spoke out.
No, Ms. Baez spoke out. I just wanted to know what the position entailed of.
The position is just that you attend the meetings and that that you attend all meetings and you contribute your feedback and input as to what should be done. Right. So we anybody can attend these meetings. Anybody publicly can attend these meetings. But I want to put more value in those that are willing to commit to this committee.
And in the committee, you have, I guess, voting rights as opposed to non-committee members?
So that's a great question and clarity, right? So we just received clarity that the only way that you're able to vote is if you are on the actual community board. So you won't be able to have a vote, but I'm using, again.
Oh, Ivan, I'm sorry. Can I interject one thing? You wouldn't be able to vote, but you would have a voice in what's happening within your community. You
would have a higher stake versus somebody who is just a guest.
I see. Okay. And this decision has to be made today.
It doesn't have to be made today, but we can make note of it today. And I think that is great that we're going over it right now.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering my questions. I'm interested, but I have way too much going on now, and I don't want to try to commit to something and then it doesn't fall through. Personally, I don't like doing that, but I also want my voice and to join everyone else's, same page of bettering the community and the parks in this area.
That's fine.
If there's a part-time committee member, count me in.
Ms. Baez, that's perfectly fine. You know that your input, I mean, you are here majority of the time. I would leave that up to you and your decision. I totally respect that and appreciate your attendance in all of our meetings, because you're pretty much here in all of our meetings. With that being said, I leave that reservation up to you. Is there anybody else?
Is there like a cutoff date that you can join or no?
No, there's not a cutoff. So all you would do is propose that you want to be on this committee. And then I guess from that point on, we would come up, myself and Ms. Bond, which is my co-chair, would come up with maybe some type of bylaws for this committee so we can move forward as far as what this committee looks like. You know, I'm a firm believer that this committee is the model for the Community Board 12. And I stand steadfast and proud and confident in that. So this is what we're doing right now. We're addressing it and we're moving forward. So is there anybody else?
I'll reach out to you in a couple months.
No problem, Ms. Baez. Is there anybody else that is
Yes, hi, good
that wants to
afternoon.
express? Yes.
Hi, my name is Pauline Pavone. I'm one of the Friends of Seton Falls Park. I put in the chat that, yes, I would like to be a member of the committee.
Okay. Thank you so much for your volunteering. Thank you. And Ms. Bond, can you please make note of that we are considering Ms. Pavone for the committee.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
Yeah, Ivan, to the extent I could be a member of a third committee, I'd like to join the Parks Committee.
Awesome, Mr. Singh, because I have high hopes for you, and I know you're going to do big things here in this.
Oh my God! Now I hope I don't disappoint you in the future.
No, you will not, Mr. Singh. I'm happy. I'm happy for Mr. Bone as well, but Mr. Singh, you will have a vote because you are a part of the Community Board 12, so you will have a vote in this as well.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hey, Ivan, this is Matt from Parks. Could I give an example of something that they vote on?
Absolutely, Matt. I would love that.
Before you do that, Mark, Matt, let me just remind board
Dr.
members.
Burke, this is still my meeting. If you
I understand that, but I am the chair of the board, and so I just want to make one thing clear.
Okay.
To all of the board members. So just make certain, though, even though you are being recruited, and that's fine, but just make certain that, like for instance, in your case, Mr. Singh, you have a pretty big assignment with land use, so you do not want to go too far in. And what I'm saying is that if the Parks Committee needs more members, that's fine. We're looking to expand that. But my thing is that I appoint people strategically for a reason. So I say all that to say that just be careful of that. All right. So now, again, I'm not trying to take away from the Parks Chair, and I'm not going to do that. I'm just letting board members know that. So, for instance, Ms. Pabon, more than happy that you are joining that committee. And I look forward to, and I'm sure as the Parks Chair does, that you do excellent work with that. So with that being said, I'm out, and I'm just going to sit back and I will, listen. If there's something that needs correcting, I will correct it. All right. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Dr. Park. And I think I can handle a third committee.
Thank you, Dr. Burke, and thank you, Mr. Singh. Matt, if you will continue.
So one of the things that the Parks Department does is capital projects. And elected officials will work with the Parks Committee and the Community Board to identify some particular parks that can use an upgrade. Then they go into the funding stage and develop a set amount of dollars. It's usually 90 to 100% all donated capital dollars coming through elected officials, Bronx Borough President, state officials, what have you. Once that money is allocated, the park steps in and starts working with the Parks Committee. We will design, we have an entire design team, and we hold what's called scope meetings. And so we like to get feedback from the community. We take that feedback, our designers then go and they put together generally 1, 2, or 3 different design plans for a particular park upgrade. Those plans then get presented to the Parks Committee as potential options for final design plans, submission for procurement, and then construction, and then opening. Once you get to that stage and you have, say, 2 or 3 different design options, and they vary differently between each one, only Parks Committee members could vote on which one would be accepted by the Parks Committee, and then the Community Board backs that, and then they submit a letter to the Parks Department stating that their request for this particular design, and then we take it from there.
Thank you, Matt. That was an awesome testament as to how things should, fall through. Thank you again.
I have a colleague on. Stephanie, did I miss anything with that?
Sorry, I was on mute. I thought that you gave an excellent example.
That was so good. So with that being said, how we generally start our meetings, and we don't have as many as we normally do, because we've been upwards as of 40 people attending. We usually introduce everybody, and then we're going to continue that. So with that being said, I'm Ivan Boris. I am your park chair. I have been the parks chair for nearly 6 years now. And that's just me. I'm a born and raised member of the community, in our community board. And I wear that on my sleeve, and I'm very proud of that. I would like to introduce my co-chair.
Good everyone. My name is Denise Bond. I have been living in Community Board 12 all of my life. I'm a Bronxite. I have just recently joined the board within the last couple of years, and I've been working on the Parks Committee with Ivan.
Thank you, Ms. Bond. She's my right arm, my right hand. Can't do anything without her, and so appreciate her. For everybody else that introduces themselves, you can just say who you are. You don't have to give a whole bio. You don't have to give a bio as I did. So I'll start off with Mr. James, and then I'll work my way down.
Hi, good evening. I'm Theodore James. I am a member of Community Board 12, and I'm happy to be on the Parks Committee.
Thank you, Mr. James. Thank you for being here. Ms. Dyer.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Thayer, and I'm the Deputy Administrator for Van Cortlandt Park.
Thank you so much for being here, Ms. Thayer.
My pleasure. And I used to serve on community boards before I worked for Parks, so I particularly appreciate your input.
Thank you so much, Ms. Thayer, for being here. And my brother from another mother. He knows who he is.
Hey, good evening. John Isaac, Community Board 12 in the Bronx. That's it. Second Vice Chair, Community Board 12.
Thank you for being here. I have Mr. Toba. Always good to see you.
Thank you very much. This is Toba. I was waiting for a time to just say something. I want to be a member of this committee. Years ago, I was actually on the board, and I was the chairperson for this Parks and Recreation Committee. So as much as I have the time, I will always come around to be with you. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Bond, can you please take note that Mr. Toba would like to join our committee?
Duly noted.
Thank you. And our vice chair, the illustrious.
Hi, I'm Egeria Bennett. I'm also a long time, 50-year member of Community Board 12. I mean, that's a long 50 years, and I am the first vice chair.
Okay. Mr. Singh. He's my rookie of the year.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm a resident of the Bronx like everyone else. I'm a member of CB12, and I'm happy to be a member of the Parks Committee, hopefully effective tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Thank you for being here with us. Mr. Clinton.
Good evening, everyone. Clinton Mike here, Community Board 2 member for the last 5 years. Lifelong resident of Community Board 12, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clinton, for being here. Miss White. Donna, Miss Donna. Miss Donna, is that your?
Her microphone is not on, so maybe she's having some audio issues. She was logged in.
It is actually on. I guess we're just not hearing her. Okay, we'll go on to Zahidin.
Hi, my name is Hafiz Zahardin. I'm a Bronx resident and I work at Van Cortlandt Park Alliance as the volunteer coordinator.
Thank you so much. Mr. Martinez, or I'm assuming Martinez. Okay, we'll note them as a guest. Berger, Kevin Etchelberger.
Yes, Kevin Eichelberger, Community Board 12 member, last 3 years. Born and raised in the Bronx. Born and raised in Harlem. Been a resident of Community Board 12, 23 plus years.
Oh, you're definitely Community Board 12 bred with all those years. Thank you for being here. Riley. Okay, we have Riley. Okay, I'll move on. With apologies, our chairman, which I should have given him first acknowledgement, is also with us. I'm just going by the boxes in order. If you would like to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mrs. Chairman. So my name is Michael Burke, and I am happy to be here to see what's going on with the Parks Committee. Chairman of Community Board 12. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for being here, Chairman. Always a pleasure. Ms. Baez.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Just introduce yourself, Ms. Baez.
Oh, sorry, I'm driving.
It's all
hello,
right.
everybody. My name is Adriana. I am a Bronxite, and I've been residing in the area for a few years now. And I hope, that the Community Board 12 and Parks Committee and all the other committees in this area can keep growing and making this area great. Nice to meet you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Baez. Ms. Baez is usually with us for all of our meetings. She contributes a lot to our community and with her input, and I'm just glad that we have individuals like her that are consistent in our community. Mr. Brian. Miss Pabon.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Pauline Pabon. I am from the Boogie Down, born and bred. I've lived in CB community now for about 10 years. And as I mentioned, I've been a member of the Friends of Seton Falls Park for about 5 years or so, and just excited to join the group and contribute where I can.
Thank you so much, Pavone. I look forward to seeing you in more meetings. You have one of my favorite people, which is Miss Renee Ferguson, a part of
Patterson.
Patterson. Thank you. And just appreciate your presence and also now your commitment to our committee. Mr. Small, Cooper Small.
Hi, I'm Ms. Cooper Small. I've been in the community for over 30 years, and I love this community.
Thank you. We do too. Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. Regina Skeet.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm just here to observe. I'm a resident of Community Board 12 for 60 years now, and I'm just here to observe. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, and you are more than welcome. Anybody is welcome, even if they're a part of our committee or not. It's a public forum, and just appreciate that you're here. Also want to express that everybody's voice, in our committee, should be heard. So you will definitely have a stake as well, whether you're a member or not. And that goes for everybody else. Ms. Thayer.
Sorry, I needed to unmute myself. I'm the deputy administrator for Van Cortlandt Park, and delighted to be with you.
Thank you so much. And I have the backbone of our community board. She knows who she is. No further introductions.
Hey guys, it's Ursula. I'm the community coordinator at Community Board 12.
Thank you for being here, Ms. Green. And lastly, we have user. That happens sometimes.
That is me. Sorry, Matt Dorn. I am the park manager for all the parks in Community Board 12, and I work for the Parks Department.
Thank you so much, Matt, for always being with us. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you for those introductions. We're going to come up with a protocol to actually get those introductions shorter. But again, I just want to always show appreciation for the people that are committing to these meetings and volunteering for these meetings, most of all, because we're all volunteers and seeing what's best for our community. With that being said, on our agenda, we had the RC Park. And I'm lucky enough that I have Ms. Green on the line. Ms. Green, were we able to get in contact with the RC Park for them to come up with an update?
Sorry, I had stepped away. Let me try, okay?
Okay.
Give me a minute.
All right. So we've tried for the last 2 months to get the RC Park. We've made attempts and having the RC Park representatives speak for themselves. Again, this was before many of you even attended these meetings or were on this board. This happened to be my personal baby. of our community. I felt that the RC Park was a unique amenity that we should not just get rid of or overlook, because it was so unique, not only to our community but throughout the New York City area. It's radio controlled. It's radio controlled, like how would I say?
Radio control cars.
Yeah, it's radio control cars, but it's a radio control is a area for radio control cars where people can come, fathers, mothers, families, they can come and they can race their radio control cars on in this track. And I thought it was really unique to our community, and I thought it was just an amenity that just shouldn't be overlooked or done away with. Unfortunately, to give you guys an overview, for those of you that don't know, the Parks Department has been challenged with this area due to runoff of dirt into Bronx River and so on and so forth, and the upkeep. The Parks Department, along with Parks Manager, has done their due diligence on their side and working with us and not having to just take full authority in what happens to this park. We were nearly not even a month, less than a month, maybe a week away from having this park dismantled. We had the RC committee, the radio control committee, reach out, talk to us, and really be adamant as to what was to be done to this park. With that being said,
Ivan, is there anybody in this meeting today that's representing that group that they wanted to have established? Is there anyone here?
I don't think there was. I was assuming, but that is a great question.
I think Ursula just said she was going to reach out.
Right. So I'm just giving an overview as to what the situation is. So because there are some people that are not privy to this information, even in the last meeting where they were assuming that things weren't taking place. These things have been taking place. What we've done. So I'm speaking freely as to what's been going on. So with this park, for those that don't know, they just came on and they think they know, but they don't. Here it is. So with that being said, there were several different proposals as to what was going to happen to this park, or what should be done to this park, or what we could do with this park as a compromise. And with that being said, when the RC committee came back out and about, they came out and they were very adamant as to what they wanted to see this park. The parks department was willing to work with the committee. They gave them compromises and alternatives as to how we can go about this park. With that being said, the Parks Department, they contributed to this plan, but has not been in attendance for the last 3 meetings. There has been several transmission and to reach out to them, and they just have not reached out. So right now we're on our last leg of what is going to be done with this park, because we do have deadlines that the Parks Department has to uphold and as to what they want to do, but they need to know what's going on. With that being said, so that is the overview. Are there any questions with that? So that I may make anybody privy to what's transpired.
Isaac, this is Ms. Baez speaking. When is the deadline?
I could field the questions on that.
Thank you, Matt.
There's no deadline, but it's just bad optics for no one representing this group that we've been putting a bunch of effort into, just to be honest with you.
It is. It definitely is definitely it definitely doesn't look bad on us as a committee and as to what we wanted to do with the park to begin with. So I'm going to table this for the next meeting as to a vote, especially with our members, as to whether or not as to whether or not we move forward with our own plan as a committee, or we continue to work with the RC community.
Okay, could I respond to that?
Absolutely, Matt.
I don't think the community board needs to do anything at this point. I don't think the Parks Committee needs to do anything, and I think we could probably take it off the agenda. Right now, the current state of the agreement, I guess, is still being worked on in the background through our agency. A document has been drafted by the Bronx commissioner. I put input into it. The chief of operations has put into it, and that has been redrafted a couple of times and submitted to our legal department. So right now, I'm just waiting from my legal department to release the document. At that time, we could then put it back on the agenda, because there's really nothing else that we need to do until that document it's finalized, gets released, and then we could talk about how we're going to execute it in the agreements that we developed in order to establish a group and maintain some type of stewardship of the area in order to keep that track where it is now.
Okay, so I appreciate the transparency, Matt, and I want to make everybody privy to this transparency. So with that being said, we're still betting on the RC community to reach out and do their due diligence, where we're not sure of that yet. So one of the other proposals was to make a BMX pump track, which we can get funded from our our council member or other elected officials, to have this park funded to the likings or to the adherence of what the Parks Department needs, right? So that's what I mean, Matt. So I mean, I appreciate you willing to compromise, but at this point, I don't want you to compromise any more than what you already have. Is everything clear to everybody? This is a point where I don't have a problem with anybody speaking out.
We've gotten to this point to move forward with the as is usage of the track, of the RC track. As of right now, what I'm saying is we wait until the document comes out. We'll submit it to the community board. At that time, if the group isn't going to establish themselves and follow the parameters and the guidelines that we set in the document as far as private parks partnership groups and how they operate on and are allowed sort of unique permit usage for a particular part of parks property, then we'll establish that at that point. But I don't want to have on the table that, oh, the community board just decided now that we don't want to go through that. We're already in sort of like the 10th hour of the process. We're just waiting it to the next stage. I don't know how long that's going to take.
No, and Matt, I mean, I feel, and I genuinely appreciate that, because I mean, I remember, and anybody else who has been there can concur, we were literally seconds away from this park just being dismantled. So I appreciate the patience. All right, I appreciate the patience. I hope the discussion just now was totally transparent to everybody, that everybody understood, and that's where we are right now. And I feel that we're fortunate enough that the Parks Department is still continually, they're not going to jump the gun in their plans, and they're going to work with us. So thank you so much, Matt.
Ivan.
Yes.
Yeah, Ivan. I've been in previous meetings where we had discussed this, and I just wanted to know. You mentioned there is a RC committee, but like how many people are on this committee, and how much involved do they plan to be with, even if they were to get this park designated for them? Because I know it's great to have in the community.
Right.
Probably it's the only one that we'll have in the Bronx or probably in New York. But
right.
I used to, particularly in the summer, I walk by there like almost every day or jog by there.
So
And I know that place was just being overrun with grass
Right.
and
Right.
bushes.
So Mr. James, and to everybody that's listening and wasn't privy to before, because the Parks Committee is doing their due diligence. This committee is, again, we are the model. We are doing what we have to do to make sure things get done. And with that being said, to answer Mr. James' question, for those of you that may have had the same question, so the Parks Committee, this was something that we've been working on for the last maybe 2-3 years, and the Parks Committee, they in the 10th hour, as Mr. Doran used that phrase, in the last seconds, the RC committee came forth, and they were very boisterous. They were very boisterous as to what they wanted to see done with that park. We gave them several compromises, and they were adamant that that they wanted to see the park being done a certain way. As far as to add to Mr. James's question, there were several members that actually came to these meetings and voiced as to what they wanted to see done with this park. So that was, it was more like passing the torch, so to speak, as to what should be done with this park. Unfortunately, and I will use the words disheartening, that they haven't attended in the last 3 meetings, and also their proposal was a little light, for lack of better terms, in their proposal. So that's why I was bringing it out. And again, I appreciate Matt's patience, because I would have liked a stronger proposal for this. I would have liked a stronger proposal for this park. That's not to say that I'm throwing them under the bus. It's just more to say that I would have liked a stronger proposal. Maybe they needed assistance, and maybe we can still assist them. And I hope that answers Mr. James' questions.
Well,
as well
in addition to
as
that, what I want to say, they haven't been here for 3 meetings, as you said. It's to me that is showing that it's a lack of interest. And not only that, you mentioned also the BMX alternative. Can you explain to us what that is? And I think if we have a different group of folks who would be able to use this more, or we can reach out to a broader section of the community, we probably need to consider that very seriously.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Bond.
Yes, I'm sorry. Wait, Ursula, you wanted to say something? Miss Green, you wanted to say something?
No, I just thank you. I'm just gonna say this, that I don't think that because they haven't come in this on them. I don't know.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say.
I don't know if that is their fault. So don't say that yet. Let me investigate and I'll get back to you.
And actually, I was going to, because I had my hand up
look.
first. I'm sorry, Ursula. I mean, I had my hand up, so I have a question. So,
no, go ahead, Dr. Burke.
Yeah, my question is this. So when, because Mr. James asked a question as it pertains to the RC committee, my question is, who from the Parks Committee reached out to anybody from the RC community? Because it's very, to me, if I come in 25 strong and all of a sudden I'm just going to miss meetings, that just doesn't add up to me. So who from the Parks Committee made contact with somebody from this community?
That's a great question, Dr. Burke. So I have reached out to the committee, and also
Who did you reach out to?
I reached out to Michael.
By what? Did you call him? Or
By
did you
email. By email and by phone call.
Can you copy me on those emails? Because I will need to because I'll reach out to him myself. If you
And
copy me on those emails that you sent me.
also when I put on the agendas for these people to be invited, I'm assuming that Miss Ursula reaches out to them for them to attend as was done in the past. Miss Ursula, can you speak on that? Ms. Green?
Ivan.
Sorry, guys. That's why I said I need to check my email to make sure. That's why I said let's not.
And I'm betting on you. So I mean, I say that.
Because I make mistakes too.
It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. I know.
Ivan, this is Matt from the Parks Department. Could I clarify one thing?
Go ahead, Matt.
We had individuals interested in the area attend community board meetings. I wouldn't so as to call the group a founded group or a specified committee on RC cars. In order for that group to be functioning as a group, they have to organize themselves. They have to be registered with the Parks Department through the Bronx River Alliance as a private parks group, a stewardship group that is going to take ownership of that. Part of the guidelines that will be released after my legal department looks over this stuff is going to have specific conditions as to what a group is, what does it consist of, how it functions, and part of that is registering with the agency, with having specific, just like a community board, having specific people fill roles, and then those would be point people through the agency that we could contact and the community board could contact either thing. So that hasn't been established yet, but it is going to be one of the prerequisites to getting this whole thing running, and they're going to have to spearhead this.
And to confirm, wait 1 second, Ms. Bond. So to concur with Dr. Burke's analysis, I agree with Dr. Burke, and that's why I said that it was disheartening. So we originally did have about 25 members from the RC committee show up to these meetings. They showed up to about three or four of the meetings strong. And I mean, personally, I was elated to have such a strong turnout. But with that being said, and I will ask Matt if he can how do you whatever, if he can concur whether or not as to they were giving the parameters as to their responsibilities in several meetings. In those meetings,
they weren't given that. They expressed interest, and we're putting together it's sort of the document that puts forth the requirements, the guidelines, and the conditions of the group being founded to maintain the stewardship of this area.
Right.
I want to make it clear, this group has not been founded yet. That just because they showed up expressing interest on a community board meeting doesn't mean that there is an official group that is partnered with the Parks Department to maintain stewardship of a particular area.
I understand that. So what I'm asking for clarity, right? What I'm asking is, I thought, and I was under the impression, I should say I was under the impression that this group that showed up they were given parameters. They were given different opportunities as to how they could go about being in, partnering with parks. Was that not established?
But Ivan, I think that
I'm asking Matt.
Part of it,
right.
Oh, right. But I just wanted to add to that. I think that the part of it that they were still in their infancy, they're not really, they're part of the RC community. They're not a formalized group of any kind. They're just the part of the RC community. So I think that they were just in its infancy. That's what I wanted to say.
I mean, no, and
Correct.
that makes sense. But okay, and that makes sense because I'm not here cracking the whip on the RC community. But I do want to clarify, because it does fall on us as a committee, right? Because now the onus comes up on us as to how we've gone about this, right? So with that being said, again, I was under the impression that the parameters were professed, that they were transparent as to what the next steps were.
Ask something.
1 second. I just need Mr. Doran to answer that, and then you may speak.
The people that attended the group, they represented the interests of the RC community. They were not specific to the Community Board 12. You had representation from people that participate in that particular hobby. I remember the meeting, and there were people from Brooklyn, there were people from upstate, there were people from other boroughs as well, and they were all in support of a few people that lived in the community. So that's how that meeting started. In that meeting, I made it clear that the group would have to submit something to the agency on their interests. They did that. So they put forth a document, they submitted to Parks that outlined what they desired to have established as themselves as a group and for the use of the property. So that was the first step. And we talked about that in the community board. This was last year. So they did that. It was the document that we took and we drafted an agreement from the Parks Department that outlined the parameters of establishing the group, what the group means, how it has to govern itself, how it has to report back to the agency, the requirements back to the community, that if we're going to give this group basically an open-ended permit for this area, what they're going to have to then contribute back to community board, how they're going to have to advertise. And then there's specific legal stuff, because it is public land, that we have to put in there as far as just legal stuff like termination of an agreement. Any addition or subtractions to the agreement must be agreed upon by both parties within an X amount of time, all that type of stuff. So that whole document, all that information is currently being looked over by my legal department. That's going to get released and submitted. And at that time, it's going to be the responsibility, or the opportunity will be then available for all these people that are interested in this hobby in this area to get together and to form a group based on the boundaries that we just set forth to them. Now, if that doesn't happen and this group sort of lackadaisically falls apart, there's no organization, it doesn't come together the way we've said, then it goes back to you guys, where you could then decide that you want to move forward with option 2 for this area. You express the BMX thing. So that's pretty much a summation of where we were to where we are now, and hopefully where we'll be in the months to come.
Matt, that was an excellent report. Is there any questions as to or any questions for clarity on what has been?
No,
There is no question for clarity, but what I really want to say is that I was in the last meeting, and whatever Matt is telling us is true. That is key. But I would think the assignment of this committee is to oversee the formulation of those groups based on what is expected. Like you said, the people that came to last meeting were just interested, individual people that were interested in the project. It doesn't necessarily mean that they come as a group. And from this meeting, they took from the meeting that they need to be a group. So I would expect that our committee here, Parks Committee for the board, will now work with them to make sure that those things that the park department wanted from them, we will help them to achieve it, because the take home here is that we happen to have that land space in our board, in our community board. So we should make sure that whatever they need to exist so that they can sustain the project, we will work with them. And I don't necessarily think they need to come to our meeting all the time unless we invite them to come. That is the only time we will expect that they will attend this meeting. So we can work with them to make sure that they conform with those things that the park department needed. The one thing I want to say is, from this conversation, those documents that the park department sent to them, if it's possible as well, they should copy the committee chair so that we can see those things and reach out to them. When you call them, you need to have a talking point on this issue. Where are you? What are the things they're doing? So if you're able to do that to this committee, I think that will help us to facilitate the project. Thank you.
Toba, I think
we will release
that's
that.
Mr.
Yeah.
Toba, Mr. Toba, thank you very much. I have Ms. Bond. You wanted to say something?
No, it was just that the group was in its infancy. That's all I wanted to really.
So we're establishing that this
community
group
is.
we're establishing that this group is in their infancy. Mr. Toba, I agree with you 100%. And just show appreciation for Mr. Doran's and the Parks Department's patience. You know, again, the fact that it's being the fact that it's being seen as a group in their infancy is just is more is just invaluable as to what we want to see done with this this park. All right. So with that being said, I'm just appreciative. I'm so used to, you know, being behind the gun and getting things done, or somebody holding you accountable or questioning your intentions, right? Where your intentions are not bad, but somebody wants to challenge them. So with that being said, thank you so much for your input. And that brings us to committee reports, for the simple fact that the reason why some of these things are not moving forward is because our committee voice is not being heard as they were 2 years ago. Last month, I had our vice chair, who will, I hope, fill my seat one day, and I had her actually create the report for last month's meeting, and she did her due diligence, and she put effort and time, and her report was unable to be heard in our last month's district meeting, and this continues to happen, and I think it's detrimental to our board, and I'm glad that Dr. Burke is here to hear this firsthand. And also, I would like for the committee members to speak on as to how our voice is being heard. So one of the issues is, as we see, is that we're not able to put forth votes, and we're not able to report to the community as to what's happening, so that they can actually contribute or come together or anything like that. We submit these reports now. It wasn't something that I was keen to do, for the simple fact that I think as committee members and board members, we do our ever so diligent in contributing to what we can to our community voluntarily, and it's being overlooked. And I'm gonna be blatant and transparent in saying to our constituents or representatives or elected officials. And I feel like, you know, as a committee, when is our voice going to be heard? We still haven't even established who's who on our website. I know Dr. Burke has been working on that. I worked with Dr. Burke on getting that to happen. That still hasn't happened. But again, our voice is now being heard even less, is what I'm getting at, due to time constraints of our board meetings and also the reports of our elected officials. So I asked the committee and I asked our community, I asked you, our attendees, how is it, you know, what do you propose that we do to have our voices heard? Because it's obviously not. And this is one of the reasons why we've been stagnant in the last year, as opposed to previous years where we've made tremendous progress.
I have a I guess a suggestion. I wanted to know if there's any way to getting, I guess, our voices in the Parks Committee heard in some of the press. I follow some virtual, but I can't always be on top of it because I get bombarded with emails. But one of them is Bronx Times, or I'm not sure if there's any way to, you know, collaborate with other boards that have a press, or if we can just start our own, you know, CB12 press. Why not?
We may have to do that, Ms. Baez, because again, what we would do every month, and we would have it televised. That was one of the reasons why we're televised in the first place. Is because we were getting out messages and we were getting out our words to the public, to our community, through BronxNet and through television and so on and so forth. And then we fall under such constraints where you need to have an agenda a week before. I'm putting it out there. You need to have all these constraints, you're putting in a report. In order for you to report, you have to put it in a report. And we know, listen, I don't want to assume that our community is not doing their due diligence, but we can assume that our community is not going out there and reading the reports of our community board. And I want to express this in our meetings, and I'm unable to. Why? Because we don't have the time, and we're not given that opportunity to do so. With that being said, and now you or I'm perturbed that now I gave my co-chair the opportunity to express herself and was unable to in last month's meeting. So now you're not messing with me. You're messing with people. You're messing with my committee. You're messing with my co-chair who has been unable to express themselves or express what we have been doing in these community board meetings. So I ask, what do you think that we should do? We could collaborate with our chair or Ms. Ajiria, who's on the line, our co-chair. I'd like to hear from our co-chair as to what do you think can be done.
Before Ajiria answers, Ms. Green.
Ms. Green has her hand up. Yes, thank you, Ms. Bond. Thank you, Ms. Green.
Hey, so I'm just gonna say that George is working on having the same setup that we have for the board meeting with new face coming in and videotaping. We're trying to work it into our budget that they would do that for each committee meeting once we get back in the office.
That's awesome.
Ms. Green, I have a question for you.
Wait, Ms. Baez, can you just hold that question, because I want to ask our co-chair as to how she thinks that we can address this issue.
Hang on for a second, Jerry, before you say something. Let me say this, because
I was just going to say, you know,
I'm listening to this. Jerry, let me say this.
Three hands are up. Okay.
Exactly.
Including Mr. Burke then Mr. James, and then Mr. Toba.
Right. So, let me say this.
I
First
called.
of all, Ursula is absolutely
Dr. Burke,
right.
Dr. Burke,
And
I know that you
whatever
are
reason the
chair.
chair is not recognizing that. So let me just say this. Every committee meeting right now is being put on YouTube, right? So our district manager said that right now. So all of this stuff that's being I won't say spewed, that's not the word I'm looking for. All the stuff that is being voiced is right now is going to be on YouTube. So that's that. I'm not going to respond to a lot of the other stuff because I still never got my question answered. So I'm not going to respond to that. I'm just going to say that, you know, you're more than entitled to, you know, if you feel that the Parks Committee is not as being ignored, that's not the case. But the question then becomes, you know, outside of the agendas, are the agendas done in a timely manner? Are the reports done in a timely manner? So yes, you're saying that the vice chair did it. Yes, I did. Was it done in time to put on the website? And so the website is being constructed in such a way where every committee report will go on that website. So I think to say that the Parks Committee is being muted is absolutely just not true, and I'm not.
Burke, we have spoke to George Torres, we spoke to Ursula, and it was clarified that an agenda does not have to be put forth in a week's matter of time. We've had adhered to that and compromised to that recently because we continue to be unheard. So I appreciate your response. And with that being said, I would like to hear from our co-chair as to how this can be rectified.
I'm at a meeting. I'm sorry. Can we hear from these two people who have their hands up?
I called on you, Mr. Jeria. If you don't want to, if you choose not to respond, that's up to you.
It's not that I choose to. I want to hear from them too.
Okay.
Ivan, this is Matt from Parks. I'm gonna bow
out. Matt, before you go, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I had placed a comment in the actually a question in the chat. I'm not sure if you saw it, but I'll just read it. So it says you mentioned a number of people coming from upstate Brooklyn and other places, and then the question is, how are parks generally utilized? And the follow-up question: will there be priority for CB12 residents?
I will. Let me take that question, and I'll get an answer for it and have it for the next meeting.
Great, thank you.
Great question, Mr. James. Thank you, Matt.
If I could just add to what was said, that the RC community, because they had in the past utilized this area, they came from all over, and that's why you have so many people from upstate, from Brooklyn, from all over, because they utilized it in the past to have tournaments.
Okay, Mr. Toba.
Oh, thank you. The first thing I want to say is that the committee has a responsibility of putting those reports together, which according to the chairperson, it was done. The next thing is that the committee report has to be read. You know, I understand I don't know if the board is going through this new dimension of putting things on YouTube or maybe on website. At the same time, we have to understand that the community that we are leading, this community is not there yet. There are people, even on the board, I don't know for now, that before, if you don't send them a mail for notice of meeting, they don't have how to get those notices. What we used to do then is you send some people email, you send some people hardcover. So as much as we're going technical or maybe technology-wise, we also need to understand the community that we're leading. That when we come to those boards, some of us really want those reports to be read out. If not everything, give us a synopsis of what the reports are. And I want to say that, you know, like I said, I was the chairperson for this committee before. Apart from land use and parks and recreation, These are actually the two most important committee that used to be working. I see Judy here, I see Renee here, and I see Osla. Definitely, we work together. These are the people that were actually doing. Now, you see, the problem of this neighborhood is about how to engage the youth. And if these parks are not in shape, the playgrounds, then where do you want them to go? So I want to plead with our chairperson. You have to take it up with the board members. Our committee will try and do our job, but I want to plead that we should be given opportunity at those meetings to actually do submit our report. If I commit this time to come to a meeting, I want those things to be said on the general meeting. And I'll make this last observation. The last meeting that I saw, we didn't have too much of community speak in that meeting, but I see a whole bunch of elected officials that don't belong here. And they took over the whole meeting. I don't know it should be. You can recognize these people, maybe they have ambition, okay, but they don't really work for us. So for someone to come from another district and they're telling us stories that we expect from our own elected official, just recognize them, give them greeting, that's it. But they took over the whole meeting. So when we look at situations like that, I think that will cut into what the chairperson is saying, so that we can have enough time for our committee report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Toba. With that being said, I think my point was made. If not, that's fine. Everybody to each his own.
Mr. Singh has his hand raised.
Hands up. Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Bond.
And Mr. James.
Mr. Singh.
Hi. Yeah. Might I make a suggestion, please? Mr. Boris, I heard your concerns, and I'm not minimizing them. What I'm questioning, though, is the forum, since this is an open meeting. I was just wondering if these concerns could properly be raised at an executive meeting that's not open to the public, where the chair presides and we have the chairs of all the other committees, and expressed more as what it is, an internal issue.
Mr. Singh, I assure you, these meetings have been recorded. I don't know if you have access to them. I mean, they keep saying that there's access and everybody has access, but this was definitely, unequivocally, and that's why I asked Mr. Jeria to answer if she had any suggestions. This is unequivocally has been asked in previous meetings. So, I mean, whether or not somebody may see our concerns as petty or not, I think Mr. Toba just concurred as to what is actually transpiring. With that being said, Ms. Bond, who was the next person?
I think that missed the point, though. The point I'm raising is that this should be addressed at an executive meeting.
No, so again, so to answer your question, it has been addressed, and it just has not, for lack of better words, been addressed. So it's been brought up, and it just has not been addressed. So it hasn't been put into the forefront, right? So I put on my agenda, which I put in an agenda to their imaginary 7-day disclosure. I put in the agenda for it to be out, and I put that actually in the agenda, and the agenda states committee reports, and that was the discussion of committee reports, which they are. The reason why I was put in there is because they're not being heard. So again,
Ivan.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off, but this is Adriana Baez speaking. I want to piggyback off of what Mr. Toba said, and I highly second what Mr. Singh is saying. I personally, this is my personal opinion. I appreciate you bringing this onto, I guess everyone's attention, but I think the level of this, I think this could be handled in an executive position. I like to hear these meetings that go on every department and everything, but when certain internal executive things go on, I come out because it's really none of my business. That's just my
right. No.
opinion. And I have my opinion, and I want to know what's going on in the community. I totally understand that there may be some, agree to disagree, but I agree. I'm piggyback on piggybacking, and
Right.
you know, I agree with what Mr. Singh
So,
is saying. I think
so
right
again,
now,
maybe I'm not clear. In executive committee, this has been brought up. So again, again, I had Ms. Bond, who is our co-chair of the committee. She wrote up the report, which is done every month, and she wrote it up last month and was still yet to be heard by our community board, or you know, in our meeting. So I'm just being transparent. So it was written up. It was submitted in due time. This imaginary due time that they have come up with, and it still was not heard. And so, you know, the same way that our feet are being held to the fire as a committee, I'm just putting it out there and being transparent in yet another meeting aside from the executive committee meeting as to what is not happening, right? There was somebody else, Miss Bond.
Oh, I think Mr. Singh would like to say something.
Not again. I just spoke, Denise.
Oh, okay. No, but I saw your hand up. I'm sorry.
And I hope that I'm being transparent. I know there's a little emotion in my tone because I'm speaking on behalf of our community and what we do for our community. I'm speaking on behalf of unheard voice.
I just want to add, Mrs.
Sorry, hi.
Never mind.
Yes, Mr. James.
I'm
Mr. James.
sorry.
Oh,
No, never mind. I was just going to tell Mrs. Singh he has to click on his hand to get it off.
Okay, he turned it off.
The same thing happened to me.
Is there anybody else? And I'm glad that we have
Yes.
community board members here because this is what something that I professed as to changing for our board. I mean, if it changes from now until next month, that's awesome. And for the rest of the year, that's awesome. But I wanted to go noted that this is something that I've been fighting for nearly a year and a half or more.
Oh, Miss Pabon would like to say something, and Miss Patterson would like to say something.
Go ahead, Miss Pabon, and then I would like to introduce Miss Patterson.
Yes. Hey, Renee. So I just want to get a little bit of clarity. You know, this is my first meeting here, and I'm just trying to understand what's being discussed. Are we saying that a report at this meeting was not given an opportunity to be said, or at the executive meeting? Because you know, I'm hoping that at this meeting we'll be able to get a little bit more strategic in how we're going to move forward in assisting the community, like Mr. Toba mentioned. And what comes to me is creating or coming up with subcommittees to help community members like the RC Park Group to sort of guide them and walk them through the paperwork process. You know, sort of as an aside to sort of help guide community members that way. So I'm just trying to get clarity because I know we're going.
No, so Ms. Pavone, those are legitimate concerns and questions. So to clarify, these reports which have been made, and I have reports for every month since for the last 2 years, since Dr. Hall was last committee chair, community board chair, which Dr. Burke has overseen in his absence, and now he is chair. These reports have gone unheard. So for the last 2 years, and I know there are people here that they can attest to this. So these committee reports have gone unheard due to what Mr. Toba was speaking of. Okay, so with that,
excuse me, Ivan, I'm sorry. Can I just add to that for for Ms. Pabon's clarity? So the reports that we're talking about that Ivan is referring to are the reports that are generated by each committee, and those reports are then submitted, and they used to, is what he was saying, be heard in the general community board meeting. But we haven't continued that process, and that's the point that he's making.
So with that being
okay.
Right.
So that I just wanted you to understand that. That's
thank you so much, Ms. Bond. If I wasn't clear, that's why I have you. And with that being said, so infancy committees such as the RC committee, they can get assistance, right, by these reports. If these reports are made, the RC committee can get assistance, which they are not seeing. And again, I wear our progress on our sleeve. I mean, you can look in the in our track records as to what has been accomplished with the helps of Dr. Burke, who was the former co-chair of the Parks Committee. We made immense progress. Why? Because we were able to make these reports and get our message out to the community, which we have not been able to do within the last 2 years. Right?
Okay, Ivan, this is Miss Byers. I'm sorry. I apologize, and because I was thinking of something else, so I apologize for what I said earlier. My bad.
No worries. I'm glad that this is becoming more clarity. So I just want to make it transparent as well, because this meeting is recorded. Mr. Toba, I have to wait because I have Miss Patterson, and I can't. Miss Patterson means too much to me right now for me to skip her. So with that being said, again, so for clarity, this is what has been happening. So even with yourself, Ms. Byers, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So with Ms. Byers, your name, even though you may not have attended, Ms. Byers, your name was synonymous with your name was synonymous. Hello?
Okay.
Ms. Powell, if you could just mute yourself. Ms. Powell? Ms. Powell?
Yes.
Yes. We just need you to mute yourself. I'm sorry.
So, Ms. Byers, your name was synonymous in our...
Of anyone.
I don't know what she's saying. I'm just going to mute her. So Ms. Byers, your name was synonymous in our committee reports, and the things that you wanted to see done for our community, your contribution. I wanted to value our community. So that was my take on our reports. Again, so your name was synonymous. Your name came up many times, okay, as to what was being done and who was that point person as to who was doing their due diligence and who was committed to our committee. With that being said, which brings me to somebody who is always been a voice in our community and is the backbone of our progression in our Parks Committee, and that's Miss Patterson. Miss Patterson's name was synonymous with our reports as to what she was doing for our community. And even if it was how would you say, even if it was it wasn't a big to do or whatever the case may be, it was the homage that we paid towards Miss Patterson and what she did for our community. And what we wanted to do was acknowledge her and let her know that and appreciate and show our appreciation by expressing our appreciation for her in our reports, which has not been done in the last 2 years.
You're saying that 2 years, you do not.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson. Go ahead, Ms. Patterson.
Good afternoon and good evening. Good evening, everybody. I'm in the afternoon. Thank you so much, Ivan, for all the accolades that you do give me. You don't need to accolade me. What I do is what I do for the community, and I'm never going to stop doing anything for the community until they throw dirt in my face and put that casket in the ground, because this is where I live and this is where I love. I'd like to say thank you, Toba, for what you said about me also. When Toba came on board, he found me in the Parks Committee. And I was grateful for Toba when he came on board because Toba made it very plain about the things that we needed in this community in his own, beautiful way. Pauline, Hafiz, Adriana, thank you for being a stalwart now in the Parks Committee, where I don't have to always be at the meeting every second Tuesday of the month. I want to talk to you about RC Park. Did anybody speak to RC Park about their relationship with the Bronx River Alliance? Because the Bronx River Alliance was supposed to be giving them help where the reports and that such thing is concerned, because I made the connection with them for Bronx River Alliance. So I wish somebody would reach out to Mr. Sanchez over at Bronx River Alliance with RC Park and see how that is going, because that's also a revenue stream and an avenue that they can get help with their paperwork and what needs to go on at RC Park, because RC Park is part of the Bronx River Alliance. And I just wanted to kind of put that in there because I didn't get on the phone call earlier. Also, I just want to reach out and say that I think we're going to have an Urban Park Ranger tour in Seton Falls Park in March. So I expect you, Mr. Boraz and Mr. Toba, to come out when we do have our Urban Park Ranger tour. Okay, thank you. And I wish everybody well, and please get vaccinated. I got mine. And let's move on with the Parks Committee for good and great things.
Ms. Patterson, your testimony is definitely humbling as to just how I need to carry out my my responsibilities as Parks Chair. Thank you very much. It disheartens me that whenever you have these events in your park, that I'm unable to report them to our community as I was able to do in the past.
Excuse me 1 second, Ivan. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Ms. Patterson, what date is that Urban Park Ranger tour so I can note that, please?
Thanks, Ms. Bond. We don't have a date yet, but we know it's going to
you don't have a
March.
date yet.
So when I just want to give you all a heads up because I know everybody's busy. So you can kind of circle it around that it'll be in March, probably be somewhere in the end of March. But I certainly will let you all know as I normally do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson. With that being said, I think my intentions was clarified. I think what has transpired was clarified, and responsibilities and so forth was clarified. So to recap tonight's meeting, we are going to make another effort to reach out to the RC committee and rectifying the situation. I think Ms. Patterson had the right idea as to making sure that these connections are made, and we're just gonna keep on trying, and we are blessed enough to have the courtesy as to doing so, right, from the Parks Department. And I can't wait for this COVID to get over. I want to end. One thing that I have learned is that I want to end the meeting on a good note, and I can't wait for this COVID to be over because we were progressing, I mean, profusely to the point where we were opening 2 and 3 parks and cutting ribbons and celebrating, and I just can't wait to these days are past us. It's good to see everybody here in good health. I hope you and your loved ones are in good health, and everything is okay, and you're with you. You know that if you need anything, you have a whole community here behind you. Dr. Burke has been doing a great job in expressing those who are may have again, for lack of a better word, hardships, and we're doing our best, and it's for us to celebrate each other and not bring each other down. All right. With that being said, is there anybody that has any last words that they would like to? Well, I think I'm just going to call this meeting to adjourn. So,
Ivan,
do I have a
I
motion?
have one quick question.
Sure.
Do you have any update for us on the Shoelace project?
Come again? Which project?
Shoelace Park.
The Shoelace project. Matt is no longer on this line, but he would have told you that it's been I don't want to say tabled. It's been prolonged. It's been delayed. There we go. It's been delayed. So even though I've been seeing progress, but according to Matt and according to Matt, Mr. Doran, which is our parks manager, it's been delayed. All projects have been delayed.
And that is due to COVID or due to weather?
That is due to COVID.
Okay.
That is due
I
to
know work is still going on. I just don't know.
Yes, work is still going on. That's a great question. So due to COVID, work is still going on. So far, no budgets have been cut. We do anticipate a large number of budgets being cut. We haven't got those numbers yet. Okay.
Got it.
One last thing I want to say. I know Matt is no more here, but at the beginning of the meeting, I was wondering who he was. We need to let these people understand that we're not begging them for anything. The father is in Parks Department. We are the consumer. It's like the producer, and this committee is the conduit. When the community needs something, they need to work with them to come to an agreement. It's not as if the community want it this way. Parks Department say these are guys the end. No.
Yes.
We have to come to an agreement. This is what our community wants. Whatever you want, let us see it. We sit down together. So it's not as if we're begging these people in office for anything. No.
Mr. Toba?
Our community is our first priority. I just want to put that word there.
Mr. Toba?
Yes.
I'm glad that you say that, because myself and Ms. Bond and Dr. Burke have put Matt's, which is Mrs. Doran's, feet to the fire, along with Ms. Baez and along with Ms. Patterson and others. We have put that man's feet to the fire. We have held him accountable, and it's ironic enough that tonight was one night where he actually spoke on behalf of our community. Does that Does that ring bells?
Oh yeah, it rings bells. In the time past, when they talk of the parks, they don't usually think of Northeast Bronx.
Listen, we have
thinking of Park Cortland, the other park in South Bronx. So we were fighting for what it was to us. So
yes,
we need to
we have fought with that man, and that man who is not here to speak for himself. We have fought for that man. We have fought that man in many battles and many debates. We have fought that man, and he still comes to these meetings willingly. He doesn't have to come to these meetings, and he still comes to these meetings, and we fight this man almost every meeting. Okay. And ironically, today he advocated. The voice was heard.
Yeah, okay.
It was heard.
I love the energy, and you guys will see me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Toba. With that being said, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for listening. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
May I just make one quick announcement for Van Cortlandt Park?
Wait, sorry, 1 second.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Bond.
I just saw that, excuse me if I pronounce your name wrong. Hafiz?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, okay, thank you. I noticed that you put something in the chat. Can you just share that just for the record, please?
Yeah, so Hafiz again from Van Cortlandt Park Alliance. I'm the volunteer coordinator there. and I come to the meeting just to share our volunteer opportunities that we have at the park. We're currently going to be having a weekend open community volunteering day to just remove introduced shrubs from our forest area in the park to make a healthier park. That will be on Saturday, February 20th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we will be meeting at the Van Cortlandt Park Nature Center, which is located on the parade ground. If you have any questions, you'll find my email in the chat. It's at stewardship@vancortlandpark, stewardship@vancortland.org.
Mr. Hafiz, thank you so much for being here and sharing that. I should only hope and pray that we'll be able to share that with the rest of the community in our community report at our next community board meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hafiz. With that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I second the motion. I make the motion, rather, excuse me. I make the motion to adjourn the meeting.
You're amazing. And do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Please remain blessed. And thank you so much for your commitment and to our community and love for our community. Thank you all. Thank you all, everybody. Thank you for being here. Good night.
All right. Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for your dedication.
Thank you.
We'll be joining soon.